Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inside Leather History, a fireside chat. I'm Doug O'Keefe, and I'm the host and the producer of the chats, which are a program of the Leather Archives and Museum. Maybe some of you have missed me. I had a bit of a, what do you call it, a sabbatical this year. I decided I'd move cross country. Okay, not maybe the most sane decision I ever made, but it got me to Palm Springs, California. And now I'm picking up with the chats again. And I'm starting with Mr. Gary Chichester of Chicago. Imagine that. Hi, Gary. How are you?
I'm really good, Doug. Thank you. How are you?
Okay.
You're
Oh,
warmer
boy.
than I am. I can tell you that.
Sorry, what?
You're warmer than I am.
Well, there was a reason I moved here, and it sure wasn't for, something simple. It was for warmth and heat and sunshine, and well, here I am.
Well, we just had our first blizzard, and it's not even Thanksgiving yet. So, yeah.
And therein is the reason I left Chicago. Dare I say it? Ice is in my drink. Snow is on the television, just an idea.
Ice is in our streets, and snow is too.
God. Oh, and we just had Gay Pride and we just had Leather Pride here. So it was a wonderful couple of weeks.
I saw a lot of media coverage on the Pride celebration there. And that
Yeah.
new statue that they put in, the new sculpture, the
Oh, yes,
rainbow,
yes, yes.
amazing.
I
Yeah.
have not yet been over there to see it. I got to get off my butt.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. It's wonderful, but I'll tell you, just an aside here, how different the Pride Parade was in Palm Springs versus Chicago. Night and day. Noticeable, shocking.
How?
In Palm Springs, there were no children all over the place, no strollers, no pets, no dogs, nothing. The If people had trash or something, they took it away and did whatever they do with it because there was no litter ever anywhere.
It is
And
different.
yeah, and um, astoundingly, no protesters. Nothing. I was gobsmacked. So,
See, for like 30 some years, we've had our protesters
yeah,
down on diversity.
yep,
It's a ritual, it's a
yep.
thing.
We had nothing like that. And I was trying to think, the crowds were not as big, but still, it was a decent crowd. It was a decent population to see. But I'll tell you, I I actually was remarking to people how surprised I was by this. So, anyway, let's start right at the very beginning. Now, please tell us a little bit about where you're from and a little bit about your family. You're from Chicago, yes?
I'm a native Chicagoan, one of the few, and I'm really proud of the city. Uh, I've always been proud of the city. When I grew up, I actually moved from downtown, what's now Old Town, out to the northwest side, and then eventually out to the northwest suburbs, close northwest suburbs. Brought up in a not a political family, but a right, you know, leaning family,
Oh,
conservative.
mhm.
And to this day, I still feel that
Say
pressure
what?
sometimes. I
Oh,
feel the pressure
ah,
sometimes,
ah,
around Thanksgiving and Christmas
hmm,
and conversations. You know how that goes.
yeah, yeah.
They're not too bad with the LGBT issues, but some of the other issues, I have trouble dealing with
Hmm.
sometimes.
How do you
And
manage it? Oh,
huh?
how do you manage it?
I just that's everyone's freedom of speech. If they respect my speech, I can respect theirs.
Okay, good.
And but they also have to realize when people make stupid comments, then I put them in a different category. They're not my favorite anymore, and I kind of lose respect if they're just watching TV or watching a certain TV station and only getting that aspect.
Yeah.
I like to think that I'm, you know, try to check out various news media,
Mm.
social media to get myself a rounded idea of what's actually going on in the world. Because when it comes to politicians, there's many I just don't trust at all.
Yeah, can imagine that.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on the current things coming along? I mean, it's been tumultuous over the last few days with things coming up out of Washington.
Well, Chicago's being picked on,
Mm.
you know, unfairly, and it's more of a grudge than it is politics.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can't, you see all this, people that are trying to, live a life and in a comfortable city, and they're making Chicago on a worldwide basis look like, back in the 30s during Prohibition, which it isn't. We have our issues like every major city,
Yeah,
but Chicago is one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
I
It's
agree.
right up there with everybody else. We have great entertainment. We have great museums. We have a beautiful lakefront. Good parks. And very vibrant LGBTQ community. And it's gone back. Chicago was or actually Illinois was the first state in the union to eradicate sodomy laws
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
back in 1961. And
no kidding.
we've where some states were still putting people in jail for consensual sex acts. Chicago abolished that. In some states, you can even be put to death. It's on the law, on the books still as laws. So we have a way to go. This last, uh, this particularly, I thought we were going to lose our marriage equality
Mm,
rights,
yes.
but it would go to that was on a national level.
Yeah.
Illinois is fairly safe because we have a good governor, we have a good, decent mayor,
Yeah.
and a county board president. So we have a good, strong relationship with the political aspect of the family. We're the gayest city council in the country. With
Wow.
more gay
Wow.
and lesbian folks as alder people.
Wow.
So we're quite an amazing city.
I learn all of this after I leave. I mean, what in the world?
You should have stayed at least. Well, come back on the summertime. It's
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Now, the sodomy laws, what brought that up in 1961?
They were redoing the Constitution, and it just was politically, advantageous to, do it. There are some friendly people in the state government.
Wow.
It
Wow.
was. Wow.
That's amazing. I truly did not know that.
Yeah.
Now, you were you were the baby of the family, yes?
Yeah.
How did that impact things for you? Or did it?
It did. I was spoiled, and I liked it.
How were you spoiled?
Well, just being the only boy, and I have two older sisters, and my one older sister is a wannabe school teacher, so I was always the honorary student in the family. So she'd sit me down and we'd play school, and I actually learned some things,
Oh, wow.
So, and they, kind of watch and, you know, took care of me. But, I get blamed for being the baby and how spoiled I am. But yeah, that's what I do. I'm sweet and gorgeous and cute and all the above.
But did your sister go on to be a teacher?
No, she didn't. She has a niece who is a teacher, and she's very envious of my niece who is teaching second grade kids, and she's a great grandmother, and she likes that role a lot. So
Why didn't she become a teacher? Is there some problem or?
but she got married when she was young, and it
Uh,
just that in those days it was important to find that man and get married and live your life forever after happily.
there you
Well,
go.
she's
Yeah.
grown up since then. It's not the Ozzie and Harriet time anymore. The early 50s.
Yeah, that was the time. My gosh. Now, you attended school. This was, of course, when you were a little older, with someone who became very famous, very successful. Who was it?
It was a person that I met in my freshman year in high school because my district, this is the time I was out in the suburbs. We came from, the northwest side, so there were different influences of Des Plaines, which is a blue collar suburb, Niles, which is also kind of blue collar esque, and Park Ridge, which is kind of conservative and upper level.
Hmm.
And so I was involved in junior high on student council and different things. So I was getting my taste of politics back as far as grammar school and high school, and I liked it. So first thing that we did when we started school in my freshman year, I joined the freshman homecoming float committee. And who did I meet but a young girl who's with her Coke bottle glasses, and it was Hillary Clinton. Well,
My
actually,
gosh.
Hillary Rodham at the time,
Yeah.
and kind of sweet, shy, comes from a conservative background, as it turned out. Uh, and she was kind of an influence because coming from a conservative side, when I later came out and realized about the Vietnam War and different things, I found out that Hillary was actually at the same demonstrations that I was at,
Wow.
changing her politics a little bit from conservative to more progressive.
Wow. That
And
had to be pretty radical.
yeah, yeah. And then when it came to them, Bill and Hillary being in the White House, they made a Bill Clinton was on the Today Show, and two of our co-chairs of the reunion committee said, "Oh, we're having a reunion, and would the first couple like to be there?" And well, it turned out we had that reunion that year was in Washington, complete with a tour, private tour of the White House for the
Wow.
class. And
Wow.
the event was at the Smithsonian, in one of the buildings on Smithsonian grounds, and it was quite the thing. And I always thought it was like we had people that didn't like her politics at the time, so they boycotted the reunion. And I'm thinking,
Wow.
why would
Wow.
you do that? You're invited to Washington for your reunion with the
Mm.
President of the United States and your classmate, the First Lady, and you're not going to go. And it was plus Fourth of July weekend, which in Washington is a show in itself,
Yes.
just amazing. So it was one of the highlights. I had invited my family along, and we had a great time, even though they didn't come to the, you know, the actual event. They were still at the White
Huh.
House. We got to see the helicopter land, on the yard, and
Huh.
as we were taken to Camp David for the Fourth of July holiday. And I thought, oh, this is really something. So yeah, it's a good memory. And
Wow.
she'd end up coming back to our reunions after that.
Oh my gosh.
I had
Wow.
a friend who lives in Michigan, and he was going to be my date for the reunion back a little later after that. And
Hmm.
he wasn't able to make it. So
Oh,
Hillary walks up, and I'm on my cell phone, with Jimmy, who's, my friend. And Hillary walks by. I said, Hillary, would you mind saying hello to Jim? He's in Michigan. Blew him away that actually the first lady
wow.
was talking to him on a cell phone. And she's that kind of, she's been to a few of them. I just had my, turns out it's probably going to be the final reunion this past summer, but
Wow.
she wasn't there. She's kind of keeping it low key.
Wow. Now, thoughts about the White House?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts about the White House? What did you think of that?
I love the White House. In my career, I come from an event planning, meeting planning career,
Hmm.
and we, in addition to working with Oprah Winfrey, on a lot of her events. We were also part of the Obama Christmas decor team for like 4 years.
Oh,
And it really became, you really got to respect because they would we'd manage it, but they had volunteers from all walks of life, all ilks of politics, and for one purpose. They loved the United States, they loved the White House, and they wanted to, and they love Christmas. So it all kind of came together, and that was another wonderful time to, you know, be part of. We go. They have a warehouse out in Maryland, which is like the attic of the White House, and you
well,
go out
okay.
there and just like there'd be Easter bunnies over here and Christmas decor over there,
I got
and everything would go through.
you.
Any shipments would always go through this White House for security purposes before they're trucked over to the White House. So we'd go and prep at the warehouse, and then we'd have it delivered to big pomp and circumstances. The Christmas tree for the Blue Room was brought up by wagon, and there's all kinds of tradition
Wow. Wow.
that's kind of getting lost now. I just posted on Facebook yesterday, as a matter of fact, a dear friend of mine, Megan, who was part of my Christmas team. We went back for the Pride reception at the White House and had a picture of the two of us taken on the steps of the East Wing. And I thought, that's so sad that that's all gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just how it was done and everything else, it really, it shouldn't have a building that is bigger than the White House sitting next to it for
Mm.
God only knows what purpose they're
Who
going to
knows?
use it
Yeah.
for. I hope
No.
it's nothing like their Mar-a-Lago parties with,
Oh.
women in cocktail glasses, half naked, and just
Did this surprise you?
no, it doesn't surprise me, but it's again when you go back to the tradition of
Mm.
the White House, it's just how it was. The man doesn't know what tradition is. All it is
Yep.
money and crass
Yep.
attitudes. But that's to my own political views. Some people love them. For what reason, I have no idea.
Me either. But I can't help but wonder. Uh, Hillary Clinton had gone on, of course, to be a very successful attorney in that. And I think wasn't she the first lady to actually work outside the home, I guess, working as an attorney? Um,
Probably, I don't even remember. It seems so long ago when all that was coming up.
yeah, I
She
don't
was a
recall.
housewife in Arkansas, and
Oh, okay.
I didn't even when in politics where I knew that there was a Bill Clinton coming up, but I didn't realize that Hillary was his wife because we had kind of lost touch over the years.
Ah,
And then when that all came together, I was quite fascinated by it.
yeah, yeah.
And she was
Why?
state senator. I always thought that they worked as a team,
Hmm.
much
Yes.
like the Obamas worked as a team,
Yeah.
where they weren't just the cute little housewife, over, here. They were, if it wasn't for one, the other one wouldn't be what they are today. Or were.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. Wow. That's all I can say. Wow.
Is
Yeah.
it good for women's rights because you're just not born to be a housewife. You're
Yeah.
born to be an individual and support.
Yeah. And have a brain and go out and use it and do things.
Right,
And
exactly.
yeah, exactly. Amazing. Truly amazing.
Yeah.
Now, um, what were your thoughts when their term was ending after they were there 2 terms? Yes. So when that was ending, what were your thoughts?
I was sad. But then I thought she was going to actually make it to be the first female president of the United States.
Would have been great.
I'm involved with the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame, and the election between where she lost to Trump in 2016
Hmm.
was very sad. And our Hall of Fame induction was just a couple days after the election. Actually, it was the day after the election.
Mhm.
And people, I thought, oh my God, it's going to be like a funeral instead of a
Yeah.
celebration of our community. It's going to be a funeral. And
Yeah.
as it turned out, people were touched and they were crying and they were doing things, but it was the best turnout that we ever had for the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And people needed to be together in order to, you had to be with people to give
Right.
them a hug or
Yeah.
whatever it takes to, you know,
Incredible.
increases the fight, but gives us that sense of power that we need.
Incredible. Incredible. It's a shame maybe that you guys weren't constantly in friendship, in touch and that kind of thing. That would have been even more fantastic.
She'd come up and I'd run into Hillary, different things for book signings. She was in
Mm.
town when they named her the park down on the south side.
Hmm.
And she had this wonderful classmate friend who's continued with her through her administration, through all that, named Betsy Johnson.
Mm.
And Betsy would always be there, and there'd always be oh, hello, Gary, and things. But it's like, now, wow, does she really remember who I am? Or, because the class was like 1,200 kids.
Uh, uh, uh.
And, but, it was always, I felt really good about that.
That's beautiful. Wow. So, but coming, of age a little bit for you, the 1960s offered you a wonderful opportunity to find yourself. Uh, you went to LA, lived a different lifestyle in Los Angeles,
Well,
and
yeah.
found yourself there. But tell us, tell us more about that. And I guess you flirted with show business.
Well, it wasn't show business as much. I think it was porn, but who knows?
Well,
That
well,
was never my cup of tea. I was always too fussy.
how do you mean?
I'd always do it for love, not for money.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
noble. Okay, well,
I'd never make it as a hooker. But yeah, during my sophomore year, I was feeling, urges that I didn't really understand. I kind of did, but you don't face it and
Hmm,
everything.
hmm,
And it was a spring afternoon, and I was feeling, butterflies flying around, and something drew me to, I got to get out of here.
hmm,
I was sitting in class.
hmm,
So I had some money saved from working my high school job and booked a flight to LA thinking we had gone on a family vacation the year before. And I was always amazed at the men walking around in their white Levi's,
yeah.
showing basically their religion through their pants.
Hmm,
And so I thought, well, that'd be the perfect spot to do. And I also had seen various magazines that were being sold at the newsstands,
such
and
as.
Modern Mail, and the posing strap Eckert magazines.
Okay.
And little did I know that I would meet one of the big producers of those, Chuck Renslow from Chris Studios, and he had Mars magazine, which at the time, and he was
But
a filmmaker.
what were you learning about the whole lifestyle in LA and in the 60s? How, yeah.
Well, when I flew out there, I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going, and uh, ended up finding my way to actually a very nice roommate who kind of took me under his wing. And I was underage; I was 17 at the time,
Wow.
and
Young thing, weren't you? Yeah.
I was just a baby. And we had an apartment. He had a roommate, was very LA Hollywood. So I did learn how to put powder on my Levi's to show my basket a little bigger. And it looked like it was worn denim instead of, talcum
Oh,
powder,
wow.
which is kind of a makeup thing to put on your pants to when you work in the streets in LA.
My gosh, I'd never heard of that.
Yep. And but the other Brad, who was the main roommate, was a graphic designer, so I
Hmm.
learned some stuff from him. And the other roommate, I don't even think I can remember his name anymore, the other one, wanted to get involved with the Hollywood thing. So we were a couple blocks away from a restaurant on Sunset Boulevard. And
Okay.
we get a phone call, saying, "Oh, Henry Wilson is here at the restaurant. He's got an entourage of boys." Henry Wilson was the talent agent behind Tab Hunter and Rock Hudson,
Oh,
and
no
was
kidding.
always
Okay.
known as one of the open. Jim Parsons played him in the movie Hollywood that he did. That
Okay.
Ryan, what's his name? The big television or movie producer, Ryan, not Reynolds.
I don't know. Offhand, I don't know.
Netflix thing called Hollywood, and
Okay.
it showed Henry Wilson and how he kind of founded everybody.
Hmm.
We go over there, and oh yeah, we'd love to put you, get you a job, and we'll discover you here and there and everything else. Well, it didn't work because there was a hooker, a streetwalker that I'd seen on the street when I was out cruising. I was kind of infatuated with. And that particular night, I went down to Hollywood Boulevard, and who did I run into? But this guy. We actually were going to go back to his place. It was kind of a slow day on the
My
street.
God.
And
Wow. Okay.
oh, I lucked out now. As soon as we started walking, who pulls up but the vice cops and took me in as an underage transient. So there went my future love life with the hooker. And
Ah.
then I was shipped back to Chicago, spending the night in jail,
Mm, mm.
late with, bologna sandwiches and everything else. But every turn in life, you know, is a mark on your life and how it changes from one to another. So, it worked out. It was an experience. And I came back, and just that trip to LA, I think helped me ease my coming out and accepting of myself tremendously.
How so?
Just by opening my eyes to things that, I'm really kind of a shy introvert, well, I am. Or
It's
so
okay.
I think I
Yeah.
am. Yeah. And it helped me open my eyes to what's going on in the world. Coming from Chicago, I consider it as the world's largest small town. So coming from a small town, Chicago, to LA, really opened my eyes and see. And there's crazy people out there. LA is still very crazy. And
Yeah.
it opened my eyes to that. And I kind of liked that a little bit. It took me a while before I went back because I also like to go to New York
Hmm.
when coming out. And I've always enjoyed the search, play the cruising game. And, you know, I found that those two cities were very good to do that in.
So I have to ask, the cruising game, how was it different in the 60s versus a little later on?
Well, in Chicago, when I first, got back from California,
Hmm.
I was too young to go to a bar.
Hmm.
So there was a restaurant on Diversey called the Hollywood, open 24 hours, a sandwich shop, Greek sandwich shop, which are prevalent in Chicago.
Yeah, sounds good.
And we'd hang out there, and they were, you have your favorite waitresses, and they kind of let you sit there for a price of a cup of coffee. And it was a way of meeting people, other underage kids, and you go out and and cruise the streets because you couldn't go anyplace else. So I would do that.
Okay.
And I met my first partner on Diversey Avenue, cruising around, a student from Northwestern. He was in the same boat I was. I couldn't get into the bars, and
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
you meet on the street, and that's kind of how I got started playing the cruising game. And we were together for a long time until he finally decided he was going to move to San Francisco and join a commune. And
Okay.
I go, Richard, I love you, but I'm not the commune kind of a guy. So he moved, and we kept in touch all the time until his death 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Incredible.
yeah.
Now, how long did you stay in the commune?
How long did he stay in the commune? Well, the commune, it was an interest. I learned something. Again, everything's like a learning experience. The communes would each have their own way of offering something to the community. Some would go into printing, some would
Excuse
go
me.
into this, they would got into food distribution, and they
Okay.
would go out to the markets, bring food in, and then distribute amongst the communes. Well, then as the 70s went into the 80s, it changed to an actual business.
Oh, okay.
And it was no longer a communal type thing, it was a business like everything else, and that kind of destroys that feeling. So they kind of I don't even know if they have communes in San Francisco anymore. I'm sure they must, but
I
I
don't know,
don't.
but yeah.
But
But you were.
he got into the maintenance business, had his own company, maintenance wise.
Hmm.
So but we always kept very close.
Yeah, I mean I think the communes you're referring to were more, weren't they like more the Haight-Ashbury
Yeah,
and all of
exactly.
that?
There'd
Yeah.
be 13 hippies, in a house, and a couple of women with, that would have children, and
Yeah.
you know, they'd have their pot farm in the back, and some good shit too, I must admit.
And so, and sorry, what? What?
They produce some good shit too.
Oh my.
Curious,
Wild.
I'd go out there and I'd stay with them, and it was like, okay, I'm glad I didn't move out here. I don't know if I could deal with all this. So,
Mm-mm-mm. Wild. Wild. But you said also when you went back to Chicago, in whatever point that was, you found like a lot of changes, like liberalism, and there was also the 1968 Democratic Convention, protests against the police, and you were even hit by a tear gas container. Now, tell us about that. What was going on with the protests and the
well,
violence?
when I came back from California, I did meet Richard, and being a student, kind of gave me that, you know, vibe of, young minds. We were, same age, and I loved. He went to Northwestern, and I loved the campus up there. It was really great, and he was really good for my head because he was a writer, and he eventually worked for Northwestern University Press,
Cool.
and he really opened up my mind to much more liberal thinking than I had been exposed to previously. And I've always thought of him as being, probably somebody who gave me a certain angle on my thinking, which I was always appreciative of. So when it came to the big hype in Chicago during the 1968 convention, Richard J. Daley, the old man, uh, he closed all the gay bars, cleaning up, the town for all the delegates and the
Yeah.
foreign press coming into the city.
Yeah.
Uh, and, he actually, it was at the convention, it was at the old meatpacking house, amphitheater down on the southwest side in Bridgeport.
Hmm.
So they built their route from the Michigan Avenue hotels down to, Bridgeport, were lined with like theater facades.
Ah.
So you didn't see all the torn down buildings behind it
Hmm.
and all the, crap of the city. So it was like this is
Wow.
such an
Wow.
artificial thing,
Now,
and it kind of angered the people. And then the Yippies, which were the Magnificent Seven, or the, Chicago Seven, however you want to describe them, kind of came in, and they were going to, the threatening of, we're going to put acid in your water supply and everyone's going to be high. And
my gosh.
there's
Wow.
certain parts of Lincoln Park that are free speech areas. You didn't need permits to gather. One of which was the park at LaSalle and Diversey, LaSalle and Clark, which you could gather there. And one evening when the convention was going on. It's just starting, actually. There was a huge gathering of people in the park, that were going to be part of the Yippie movement that was going to demonstrate against the convention.
Yeah.
I was out cruising. I saw a couple of buses going by filled with riot police. Cruising wasn't really good that night, so I'm
Hmm.
gonna go and see what's going on down there. So I made my way down to Lincoln Park and LaSalle Street and Clark Street, and witnessed. It was fun. There was a bar across the way from that called the Inner Circle, and you get down there and there's this party or this event going on in the park, and then people like Abby Hoffman and Allen Ginsberg were then
Wow.
across the street and go have a cocktail, and then they go back to the demonstrations again. It was
Wild.
really kind of a unique thing to see.
Wild.
And then all of a sudden at 11 o'clock, when they closed the park, you see police come in and started shooting tear gas, started taking cameras, pulling film out, hitting people with billy clubs.
Mm,
There wasn't anything really going on. Why is this? It was just such a terrible thing to witness. So that got me involved with I was working downtown. Every night after work, there'd be a demonstration of one kind or another, until the big one down in front of the Hilton, where they had a big counter demonstration across the street from the Hilton. And then Dick Gregory comes by and, everybody come down to my place and we'll have a barbecue.
Ah.
And so we followed him down. Of course, the route was to go by the International Amphitheater.
Okay.
Well, I got down to 18th Street and I was kind of far back in the crowd marching. And before I knew it, I was up against Jeeps with barbed wire things going against us to push us back. I thought, uh-oh, how did I get up front? Because people would dissipate from the front of the line. And all of a sudden I heard what I thought was a tin can. Well, it was a tin can. Hit my boot and it exploded and I was gassed. And then we were taking somebody who lived in one of the high rises right there. Took some people up that were overcome by gas, and
Wow.
that started flushing our eyes. And I thought, this is really amazing how people that don't even know each other helping each other.
Yeah.
For free speech, sort of reminds me of what's going on in Chicago now with the tear gas and the anti free speech movement that's going on in this city now.
No.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, I always kept those boots, and I thought it was pretty amazing that, it was another experience.
Yeah.
And just recently, 2 years ago, I was invited to be part of a display at the Chicago History Museum called Designing for Change. Designing for Change.
I have questions galore about that one. So
Okay, well, shall I hold that story then, or?
Yes, please, because I have wait till I get there. I think
Okay,
I think you'll find it entertaining.
Okay.
So it's okay. But I guess whatever was going on in Chicago sounds a little bit tame compared to what might have been going on elsewhere. What do you think of that?
I thought Chicago, being the world's largest small town again, kind of does things that they think about it a little bit more. We're conservative somewhat, but don't mess with the city with big shoulders, because we'll fight back. Don't push us into a corner because we'll fight to get out of that corner.
Yeah.
And the 68 convention helped to radicalize me to more progressive politics. And then
Tell me more about that.
Well, in 1968, we had the death of Judy Garland, which, and different things, and that went into 69.
Yeah.
And then you had the Stonewall.
Yeah.
That kind of came up. And after 68, and seeing how change needs to be done on, in order to create change, you have to be on the front line to do it
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
to
yeah.
push your, and do that sort of thing. So uh, Stonewall started, and Richard and I again were at home, and we started getting phone calls from a friend of Richard who used to work with at Northwestern, and he's then living in New York.
Mm. Yeah.
And he said, "You won't believe what's going on here tonight." I was kind of like, "What?"
Mhm.
This is before in tune as to this riot at a bar called the Stonewall, which
Yes.
I had already been to because we go to New York and you see you go to a gay bar that had dancing.
Yeah.
And it was always kind of unusual because in order to get to the dance floor, which was also illegal in New York as well as Chicago,
Mm.
that you had to go through the men's room, go in one door where the bar was, and then out the other door where the dance floor was.
Uh,
And I thought, well, this is strange, but that was what the Stonewall was. And the police would raid it regularly. It was considered to be a mob bar owned by the syndicate and charging outrageous, cover charges like a
yeah.
dollar or two. Now,
Imagine. Wow. Imagine. Mm.
and the right to dance together. And Chicago started going through the same thing. So uh, we started after the Stonewall Rebellion, Northwestern, University of Chicago, and the University of Illinois started their own college campus groups for gay liberation. Chicago,
Okay. Yeah.
and that's kind of how that started.
So
And then
let's come back. I want to look at that. But it's interesting you bring up Stonewall because a lot of people have spoken with me about Stonewall. Whether they were there or just they were with other people, whatever. For example, Marge Summit talked a lot about her wife, Sachi Hyatt, who was actually given a commemorative medal for being a part of the Stonewall riot. And Roger Goodman told me that he actually showed me a leather jacket that he had that still had bloodstains on it from being attacked and bludgeoned and whatever else. It apparently was a much bigger event, I think, than a lot of people understand.
well, we were fighting back. It lasted
Mhm.
for 4 days,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
entire weekend, and
Mhm.
you know, uh, eventually the police were locked in the bar, and
Yes,
the
yes.
gays were outside,
Yeah.
throwing Molotov cocktails and overturning police cars, and it
Can
was
you
like
imagine?
we had enough. And people in the unsubstantiated rumor said that the community was already in mourning for Judy Garland. She
Mm,
had
yeah.
passed away like a week before, and that's what really got them fired up. But yeah, but we
Yeah.
don't know how true that was, but it's a good story.
Doesn't hurt anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and they just had enough. They were going to fight back because we were all. There were other demonstrations in L.A. and various cities, and that
Yeah.
but people would fight back, from refusal to be served in a restaurant. This Chicago's gay liberation group after Stonewall, we started boycotting bars and picketing them because it was illegal. Well, it wasn't per se illegal for just dancing between two people. It was considered lewd, lascivious behavior, and that's what they would bust
Got it.
you on. But the
Okay.
definition of what lewd behavior was so vague
Mm,
that,
mm.
and then previous to that, there'd be raids out of a place in the suburbs called Louis Gage's.
I'm sorry,
And,
once again. I'm sorry, what?
Louis Gage's was a bar out in the suburbs.
Okay.
And they raided that bar, and the newspapers printed their names.
Uh-huh.
This is before any court dealing, but they printed their names, their occupation, their addresses. People were committing suicide. They lost everything they had. They were,
Yeah.
without any legal recourse. Again, much
Yeah.
like it is today, with people, that are being, U.S. citizens are being arrested because their
Yeah.
skin is brown. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's kind of the same thing. And so you get more angry in how to change things, and that's kind of what bound us together with the gay liberation groups. And
But tell me more about the Gay Liberation Front.
well, it was a bunch of radical hippies at the time that, especially on a university campus, where a lot of it stemmed from. We had all kinds of different, from extreme left to quasi right and central, and ideas. And it, again, I liked it because it introduced me to people and of different beliefs, and it broadened my, horizons as far as, political and progressive politics. And some things I kind of agreed with, but being brought up as a conservative, you hear the word communism, and look what the new mayor of New York is dealing with, being a democratic socialist. People don't understand what that means,
Mm-hmm.
and they get afraid of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole shell is being cracked open, and they're being exposed to it.
But is there any one or two things you can specifically point to that say, this is what I learned from this great gay liberation movement? And is it, I mean, something that really defined your new reality?
Well, it just, you know, you have to have your mindset on what is right and what is wrong. It's the same, you know, truth is everywhere. You want to be on the right side of history.
Hmm.
And so you have to, I always had people, even back in those days, good friends of mine that I always, what do you think of this issue? Or what do you
Hmm.
think of that issue? And
Hmm.
I try to find out what people's thoughts were so I could then develop my own thoughts about something and go forward like that. A lot of times, the demonstrations, early demonstrations, everybody was really angry. And I'm not really an angry person. And of course, I was brought up, being a white male, which gives me a little bit of, different look on things. But
Yes.
I was always thinking, why are you so, mad at, let's do pride. So the first anniversary of Stonewall
Hmm.
was a march in Chicago. You don't need, there is a park called Bughouse Square,
Hmm.
and it was donated to the city for the, that's Washington Square Park is the actual name,
Okay. Okay.
but nicknamed as Bughouse Square. And it was donated to the city many years ago as one of the first parks in the city.
Hmm.
And they allowed for free speech because people down there would be able to get their soapboxes out and
Ah,
set them up and speak to whatever they wanted to speak to, and they didn't
love
get
it.
burned. They So when we decided we were going to celebrate the anniversary, uh, we didn't know anything about going down for a permit.
Oh,
You
we're gonna come to still more. I'm not letting you off the hook very easy on some of this stuff, I'll tell you.
Direction do you want me to go in now?
Uh, Chicago Gay Alliance, gay
Well, that's
sensibility.
where this starts.
Okay. Okay.
So it was, you go down and you have more conservative, but we went and did this march, and I
Hmm.
still consider that a march, not to become a parade until the name Pride was attached to it. And we gathered at the Bughouse Square,
Hmm.
and we were going to have a rally there to commemorate the Stonewall first anniversary. This was, in June of 1970.
Okay.
And so we gathered there and had speeches, and then ended up, somebody said, very loose. People would do their own thing a lot.
Hmm.
So it wasn't planned to be a parade, but of course somebody said, let's go down to the Civic Center. became a parade. And in the background, we did it on a Saturday because if we're going to march, we wanted exposure because back in those days, Michigan Avenue was quite quiet.
Ah,
Uh, so we thought if we did it on Saturday, we get the shoppers and everything and
mm.
expose them to some, revolutionary fags, as we were referred to.
Wow. Now that's heavy.
And my
Yeah.
favorite images is us, parading down Michigan Avenue and then over to Randolph Street. And at the old United Artists Theater, Myra Breckenridge was playing. So there's a picture of the Radicals with their signs out with Myra. Raquel Welch says, Myra Breckenridge. And I
Huh.
thought, that's it. Little did we all know that trans, people were going to be a political issue,
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah. At that point.
So
No.
then
Yeah.
we marched down to the Civic Center. The Picasso was already there. So we did our obligatory dance around the Picasso, as hippies do. And it was a great event.
They danced
And,
around the Picasso.
big circle dance around the Picasso.
Oh, was this, what's the significance of that? I mean,
It's just something to do. Hippies love to dance,
okay. Okay. I just
And it
wanted to
looked
make sure I
like,
wasn't missing something in that.
no, and just hippies love to dance. You always see them boogie, I think Woodstock started
Mm, 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 mm.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, there was a lot going on there. I mean, you've mentioned, in numerous newsletters and because that was the way that people communicated then. But you even said there was the very first LGBTQ phone helpline.
Well, that was later on,
Oh,
because at the time, uh, I was always you couldn't get news. You couldn't get it on, TV. You couldn't get it
ah,
on the radio. But there was a more conservative group called Mattachine Midwest, which
sure.
was already in existence
Mm,
on a national level.
mm,
And they do a kind of a booklet newsletter thing. And by this time, I was going to the bars, and I'd always make sure that on top of their cigarette machine, I would pick up my copy of the Mattachine Midwest newsletter, which
okay.
not only gave things of happening, but helplines if you were busted, who you should call,
Oh,
and
I see.
referral lines and that type of thing.
Okay.
So Mattachine was, that was their service to the community. And
Okay.
the gay liberation groups were
Got
a
it.
little too radical for those folks.
Wow.
Earlier, Mattachine with people that were running it on the East Coast wanted everyone to go to demonstrations and suit and tie if you're a woman and
My gosh.
skirts and that. So they wanted that look. They were being on how they were perceived by the general public. The
Wild.
hippies didn't care. They just looked fabulous with their fringe and their hair up and flowers and so it was, but then eventually they kind of came together.
Hmm. Wild. No,
Then dancing became a big issue where we'd go down and there was a place called Rush Street just south of Chicago
hmm,
called the Normandy. And it was a good
Normandy.
sized bar, but it was just a bar in the middle of the room. But they had room. There's nothing to do but sit there
Oh,
and look at people. But it was conducive to dancing, so we
hmm.
picketed that bar until they finally agreed to it. And it was because the vice commander of the 42nd precinct, or 22nd precinct, which was that precinct down
Hmm.
there, supposedly said to the owners, which was the mob folks, I don't care what you have to do, but get these faggots off the street. So they did open up to dancing because the law was so vague that they looked
Oh,
the
I
other
see.
way. Legal, so we didn't have to go through legal changes. They just had to look at it not as lewd behavior, but as just two people dancing together. And from
Hmm.
then on, we had dancing in the city. So
Wow.
first picket that actually did something. And if you're going out and having a good time celebrating something, it's good to dance with people.
Sure.
It's a good time. So then again, that spread throughout the city, and you could now dance. And that's a little bit of freedom that we won. And then we started going into other things down the line.
Well, now I would like to talk about the Pride Parade because something interesting came up as I was preparing for this. Now, I know when we spoke, you told me you signed the first Pride Parade permit, yes?
For the city of Chicago,
For
yeah.
City of Chicago. Okay.
That
But
wasn't under gay liberation. That
I'm
was a
sorry.
year after the Stonewall anniversary
Uh, okay,
in
so slightly later. Okay.
1971.
So what year would that have been? Like 1970? Is that, I think,
Well,
yes?
1970 was the first march that started in Bug House.
Okay.
And that's why I consider it a march. But then because of political differences with gay liberation, some of
Hmm.
the uh, non-university folks thought that they wanted to work more within the system than outside the system. And so they split off from the Gay Liberation Front, started their own organization called the Chicago Gay Alliance. That
Okay. Oh, I
right
see. I
not
see.
too far after that. And then things you want to do. Okay, what should we do? Well, let's go get a permit for the 1971 March. So I was president of again, we had titles which gay liberation didn't, they weren't that structured, but we were a little more structured. And uh, I went downtown to get a permit, and never having done this before and not being familiar at all with that process. At the time,
Hmm.
we had to go down to streets and sanitation
Hmm.
to get a permit issued, and we had no idea of what to do. So I basically, and we wanted, because of, again, the anger versus pride, I always personally thought pride was a way of introducing folks. You don't want to be brought into a lifestyle being angry. You want to be
Yeah.
proud with yourself.
Yeah.
So we named it, the Pride Parade
Okay.
down and did it and went down. And I asked for everything I could think of, from bands and animal act and floats, and I even put a flea circus on the
A flea
that permit.
circus.
I could kill
Okay.
myself for not having that permit right now, a copy of it, but I've had the city search for it, and they since turned into the special events office and
Well,
purged all the paperwork from the earlier years. But we got our first permit. Little did we realize that they're going to make it hard for us. So we didn't
oh.
get the whole street. They still had cars parked on the streets. We started in an assembly area at Belmont Rocks because it was a big open area.
Mhm.
And we didn't know, again, how many floats or how many people or anything else. As it turned out, we gathered about 2,000 people that second year for the first Pride Parade,
Okay. Okay.
and marched, but we had northbound traffic we were dealing with. And we went from there down to the Lincoln Park where the Yippies the year before
Ah,
were gathering at LaSalle and Clark Street. So it
hmm.
was a fairly long parade, but
Yeah.
worked. We had a couple of floats. A lot of people, as I say, went from 150 to 2,000, and we started getting the word out.
Hmm.
We had a really good the start of the LGBT press in Chicago. The Chicago Gay Alliance newsletter was actually edited by a man by the name of Frank Robinson, who was working for Playboy as the Playboy advisor, which we thought was kind of an ironic twist. He was quite good
Sure.
about it. He later moved to San Francisco, became one of Harvey Milk's writers. He was
Oh,
actually in the movie Milk that was produced, on film.
oh my gosh.
He
Wow.
played himself.
Oh,
Marvelous man. He also wrote The Towering Inferno.
no
Interesting.
kidding. Wow.
So it was like he was quite something. But he helped do this. He really classed up our newsletter a lot and printing. And this is, that's a good way of communicating because we didn't have all these things. We'd have, little newsletters. It was
Yeah,
on all
yeah, yeah,
a newspaper, and
yeah.
then from the Gay Alliance newsletter, newspaper to Chicago Gay Crusader to Gay Life to
Wow.
Windy City Times, and it kept growing and growing and growing and growing. Another
Yeah.
thing that Chicago Gay Alliance.
But it,
One of our officers was living on LaSalle Street and Elm, and they were walking their dog, and the dog. It was one of those. I think the city does it on purpose. They don't have streets run through because you kept the Gold Coast on one side and the ghetto on the other by
okay. Okay.
by
Yeah, yeah.
easy to go from one to the other. So his dog Jane kind of got loose and ran back to what towards Wells Street, and Jerry went to find him and or her and saw this house for rent. It was a little two-story house and for rent. And we thought, well, that'd be kind of an interest because we were all meeting in living rooms and things. And this we talked about it. Why don't we open up a community center?
Okay. Okay.
So it was the Chicago Gay Alliance, community center, which opened in later in 1971, and we had room for meetings upstairs in it would have been the attic. We had a bedroom that we turned into a library. We had a phone line. We had a kitchen so we could fix potluck dinners and
Mm.
things. And it was kind of, we staffed it, and we had a lot of runaways and people that are thrown out of their apartments and
Wow.
things.
Wow. Wow.
It's kind of you see what was out there, and I'm fairly lucky, even though my folks and my family were more on the conservative side. At least they didn't throw me out of the house, which
Yeah.
was very common back in
Yes.
those days.
Yeah.
So we take people in, and then we thought, well, we'll do a parade, and we got the permit for the parade, and we did that, and we called it the Pride March. But again, we learned our lesson. It wasn't until like 4 or 5 years later that they actually stopped parking cars along the route,
Oh, wow. Okay.
stopping
Okay.
traffic along the
Yeah.
route.
Yeah.
And the first march, which I think is another first for Chicago, we did it on Saturday. And if you Google it, live, you can come up with the
Sorry.
Congressional Live. You come up if you Google first March, Pride March. The Library of Congress says that it was done. They were done in New York, L.A., and Chicago.
And San Fran, according to this.
San Fran did their own,
Yeah.
but they were all done because they celebrated on Sunday.
Yeah.
We wanted to celebrate,
Saturday.
got a crowd, so we started on Saturday, which made us the first Pride March in the world.
And I'm sorry. So I want to make sure I'm understanding. So this would have been about 1971. Is that right?
June 27th, 1971.
Okay. Okay. That explains something.
1970,
Yeah.
1970. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Once again. Sorry.
1970 was the first march. That was the march that went from Bughouse Square down to the Civic Center.
Which is okay. So there's two different marches, is what you're discussing.
And then the second one was the first permitted march in
Got
Chicago.
it. Okay.
Which was
See,
the
that
following
explains things.
years.
See, I was reading, I don't know if you can read this. I was reading, well, you can't really read it. It's the first gay parade, June 28th, 1970, by Jerry Lee. And she apparently was the wife of the woman on the horseback. But you can't, like, you really can't see it, can you?
I can't
But
know.
yeah. But anyway, and she discusses that in her book. And she said that, I can find it right here. The Los Angeles was the only one of the cities with a parade permit, classifying it as the first gay parade. But that's 1970,
Right.
not
And we were
71.
too. Right.
Yeah. And that's what sort of threw me. I wanted to make sure.
It's how you differentiate, parade permits, and
Hmm.
that's why I always
Yeah.
distinguish it between the first march
Hmm.
and the first parade in
Yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah. And that
So,
explains
that's
it
how
then.
you identify it, because the marches were much more political,
Yeah.
and sort of like the two marches in New York. You have the regular commercial parade,
Yeah.
and then you have the old-fashioned parade,
Yeah.
in New York. So that's kind of what it was.
I'm
And
glad you've explained that because it was the moment I read that, I thought, oh no, no, that's not right. That I actually thought that. But
well,
I'm
as a
glad.
kid, growing up in the gay life in Chicago, it always bothered me that Chicago being a Midwest town, we were always ignored.
Okay.
There was an old cover of New York Magazine where it showed the two coasts were, you know, the East Coast and the West Coast, with nothing but prairie in between. It was a cartoon.
Yes.
And I didn't like that. I thought, because we do, again, after 61, with getting rid of the sodomy laws,
Hmm.
kind of that early, that we get ignored. So it always bothered me that they're an advocate. They'd never pick up any kind of news from Chicago. Look, oh yeah, LA, because they were printed in LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were always ignored. So this started, and then just this past year, we had I'm working with Mike Quigley, who is our representative from Chicago for Congress, and his gay liaison, who is Yoni Heiser. And we're going to try to get a non-determined LGBTQ plaque commemorating the first Pride March that
Okay.
originated in Bughouse Square.
Okay.
Not dropping any of the letters, but to actually, so we had our first 55th anniversary of that march last
Wonderful.
year, and we're going to continue until we can get it into law with because now they're even the park across the street from the Stonewall has been dropped. The trans and bi, I think, have been dropped from that,
Yeah.
and it's like that pisses me off.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're trying to do it right and get
Yeah.
it so it is actually identified as a LGBTQ, event, and have a plaque there commemorating that date.
I'm very grateful to better understand that because honestly, that was my thought when I read that. No, 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 that's wrong. That's wrong. That's what I
Well,
thought.
even the Library of Congress lists it wrong. So
Hmm.
changing, if once something on the internet is wrong, it takes forever to,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a news, I don't know if you're familiar with, but Gay USA out of New York.
I'm familiar, but that's about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it from some news stories, but
Yeah.
again, we're kind of ignored here in the Midwest.
Hmm.
So Andrew Hum and Anne Hathaway,
Mhm.
they are good about, if I bug them enough to say, no, 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 that's incorrect,
Mhm.
and they will retract what they say if it's wrong. So, that's another. So I keep my eye on, media like that. And
Good
eventually,
idea.
Library of Congress, once we get the monument into Bughouse Square.
But when we prepared for this, you told me that of course community is always changing and evolving and all that, but that as you saw it earlier, the community was more inclusive and now more political, and also that it was more underground and sexual earlier on, which you preferred. Yeah.
I again, because I like to cruise, and I, when I started working in the bars, it was kind of hard for me to, you don't get, mix those things too much.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would love to go to New York, or if I feel like I need to really relax, I would go to New York or LA or San Francisco in which to
Wild.
do it. But politically, it I like the freedom of being underground because it didn't seem like we were under the pressure. You know, two people could go up and shake hands, and before you know it, they're on their way home somewhere. And I think sex is a good thing. And I don't think we should be, hiding the fact that we're gay and we're sexual.
Yeah, yeah.
A dear
Wow, now
friend of
there's a
mine
whole
used
nother
to, yeah,
issue. Yeah.
refer to our community as the gay minority, sexual minority groups,
Yeah.
because you have so many just in the LGBTQ, before you know it, you'd have a whole alphabet of
Yeah.
letters, and then
Yeah.
the controversy of, well, what does Q stand for? What does this stand for?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm still kind of a person that likes to use the term gay. And there's still people out there that are men, women, and everything else.
Hmm.
Be proper, again, I don't like being that proper all the time, but sometimes you have to be. I just,
Well, yeah, you do what you have to do, you know.
yeah.
But also, and you've alluded to this slightly earlier, Chuck Renslow became a good friend to you. But I'm going to ask you for the benefit of the viewing audience, whoever may see this, would you please tell a little bit about who Chuck Renslow was?
Chuck Renslow was considered as the gay don in the gay mafia of Chicago. He
Mhm.
um, he was in the sex business, and on different levels. He owned a photo. He was a photographer. His partner, Damor Judas, better known as the artist Etienne.
Yes.
You go into some of his clubs like the Gold Coast, and you see these huge cartoonish, hunky males. And then eventually it turned into some females too on the walls. And some would show baskets down to their knee. There's one actually at the Leather Archives, which has a little mark on it. And remember earlier I said that's where I picked up my gave me my Madison
Oh, yeah,
newsletter
yes,
off the
yes.
cigarette machine. Well, because of the size of the basket on this art, whenever the police would come in, they'd move the cigarette machine in front of the artwork to cover that because they
Oh,
didn't want to be
okay.
busted for it. He
Oh,
also was a filmmaker. He got a uh, award for a from film festival for a film that he made called The Blue Rose, which was about two men. It was a posing strap epic, and it was quite good, actually.
I've never seen it. Hmm.
If you ever get a chance, I think they have copies of it at the archives next time you're in town.
Cool.
It's amazing. But he opened up Man's Country. He was trying to get into politics at a time when gay men weren't opened, weren't kind
Yeah.
of popular to get into politics. But he backed the right thing. I originally met him because back when I was still searching for myself, my sister dated some guys. They were muscle builders, and she brought them home one night, and let's take some pictures. They were going out somewhere, and all of a sudden they started doing the muscle man poses. Like, oh, this is interesting. And then they told me they were going to a gym down on, I think it was called Perry's Gym, down
Hmm.
on Van Buren downtown. So there was one time I was going downtown looking for whatever, and there's Perry's Gym. So I go up there, and you get a lot of his models for his magazines,
Yeah.
his studios.
Physique magazine he had. Yeah.
Exactly. And but then he opened up the Gold Coast. He opened up Center Stage. He opened up a slew of other bars, but his forte was actually the leather bars,
Yeah.
leather denim and fetish bars, which was the Gold Coast was a major bar in the world
It
at
was
the time.
iconic. Yeah. But you ended up being the manager there.
When my partner Richard moved to San Francisco to join the commune, I
Yes.
had all our furniture. He didn't want any furniture. He didn't want it. So here I had a big apartment full of furniture. and I needed some money to get an apartment that would, basically take care of some of that at least. So, and then working with Gay Alliance and Gay Liberation Front, if we ever needed advertising, funds to do a newsletter, first person you go to was Chuck because you knew he'd take an ad out,
Yeah.
and so I got to know him. And Richard and I moved on Belden uh, after our first apartment, and about 2 weeks later, the Gold Coast moved to Lincoln Avenue at the time for a short, brief period. Well, how handy. The bar was just down the street. So we got to know, like, just, no, let's go for a drink, and walk down there and got to know Chuck very well. Then when Richard moved, I said, Chuck, do you have any room for, I had never tended bar before in my life. And he said, yeah, I can, you start Saturday. Well, it's supposed to be like Friday and Saturday. And before you knew it, I was working both downtown at my other job, and I was working eventually 4 or 5 days at the Gold Coast. Because
Wow.
oh, we need somebody extra tonight. And it lasted for about 6 months, and I was working downtown, coming home, taking a little disco nap, going to work at the Gold Coast, and then coming back, taking another little disco nap, and then going to work.
Exhausting. Yeah.
So I could do it. And we became close friends. So I quit the downtown job, and eventually he was looking for someone to manage the bar, and he chose me. He said, "Would you like to manage it?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do that." So we instituted some things. We had a really good afternoon and evening Sundays for film night. We'd bring in film. And reason, good excuse to turn off the lights and let people stand close to each other.
I see.
And we became quite popular. His politics, I learned an awful lot from because he was very progressive and he was very gay. He really had a great mind on how this would all fit in together. And he had powerful, ideas. He started a thing. Literally, he didn't celebrate his birthday, but he started the white party.
Yeah.
His family said, "Oh, let's celebrate your birthday." So they had some really great white parties. The one I remember the most is he actually took the ballroom at Navy Pier and did this huge white party. Of course, Navy Pier, everyone dressed up in white, which was sailor uniforms. So I've never seen a
Yeah.
sailor. It was quite the event. And that his white parties were done in all kinds of different locations, and it became. And his idea was that is he wanted to show numbers of how he could turn the politics, get the people out.
I see.
An
Okay.
idea. He was instrumental in doing the Orange Ball, which was at Medina Temple, which is now the Harrah's Casino. And Anita Bryant was singing, and
Oh my.
the group came out completely surrounded in a march around showed Anita Bryant what she was
You
in
mean
the
they
wrong
marched
spot,
around her? Is that what you're saying?
all around the building
Okay.
to stop her
Oh, okay.
singing concert. So
Did she stop? What?
I don't remember.
Oh,
I just know that the crowds were low and they didn't want to pass this. It was a massive crowd outside,
okay.
and that it was a way of getting us probably the biggest LGBT demonstration I've ever seen at that time.
Wow. Wow.
Went to the first AIDS quilt display in Washington with Chuck. I went to the first March on Washington with Chuck. He was an amazing man. Yeah. My father died when I was young, so he was like my father figure and my gay father.
Okay. Okay.
We were fairly close. Yeah.
But you also, I'm going to just throw this in because I think we need to cover it, was the Mr. Gold Coast contest. You created that or produced that or?
Well, at the time there was Gay Chicago was doing an award show,
Hmm.
and they would be an advertise, a magazine that advertised all the. They would get all the different bars to put up a candidate
Hmm.
to go to then the Mr. Windy City contest. So you'd
Okay.
have Mr. Gold Coast or Mr. Baton or Mr.
Got it.
Rita or whatever. Then all those folks would then go to the next level, which was the Mr. Windy City contest. And that
Got
was
it.
the king of Chicago at the time.
Yes.
So we would do the Mr. Gold Coast contest, and you could turn the bar into the pool table was a stage. It had a little walkway over to the bar, and then people could walk around the bar. So it was kind of fun, and it was very popular.
Okay. Love it.
And then that kind of led into Mr. Gold Coast went to International Mr. Leather.
Wait.
Dom, his partner, and Chuck decided, well, we could do something even bigger than this with the leather community. And they did the first one at what's now the Intercontinental Hotel on Michigan Avenue, but I can't remember what it was just before that, before they changed the name. That was who hosted the first, uh, in the ballroom, the first International Mr. Leather.
Yeah,
And
let's revisit let's visit that some more. Uh, I don't have the privilege very often of meeting people that have actually attended the first IML. It's quite something for me. Anyway, but you mentioned you okay, weren't you the what do you call it, the light operator?
well, by this time I had moved to his bathhouse, which is man's country.
Oh, I see. I
I
see.
was always more of a bathhouse person, and I liked it from when I go to me and my partner at the time would, kind of go and work as a team, kind of thing.
Okay.
And we would go and, do that. And, but then when I left the Gold Coast as manager, a gentleman from now living in San Francisco named Pat Batt took over management. And he was very staunch, uh, Leatherman
Okay.
and almost overboard. I would joke about it. He'd always wear boots to everything, and up to his knees. And whereas when I went to the baths, I was used to walking around on my bare feet a lot. So we were kind
On
of
dirty
different
floor.
people. I wasn't the extreme leather man that he thought I should be, I guess. So we didn't really see eye to eye a lot on that. But he took over the first Gold Coast or IML at the hotel, and of course, I was being part of the family.
Yeah.
I went to see the event. Well, they needed a couple of follow spot operators for the show. So I said, well, Pat, I know how to operate a follow spot,
Uh-huh.
and a friend of mine, Sam, he can operate the other one. So that was what we did for the first IML back in 1979,
9.
was it? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
it was 79.
So
Yeah.
let's revisit that even more because there I don't know what you hear, but when I was coming up in the leather community, you'd hear the first IML depicted literally in iconic status and outer space and whatever else. And uh there were only 12 contestants that very first year. What were your thoughts on this? You didn't think it would become big like it did.
Well, you didn't know. It was just something new. We
Hmm.
had, a good crowd
Hmm.
because it was something new, and
Hmm.
the contest bug got everybody. And then leather was just another draw, and this ballroom was quite la-di-da, so it was kind of a good conflict of, you know, uh, leather against this la-di-da. I think it might be even like beige or pink,
My gosh.
so and it worked out well. And I think we had a sign painted sign, the International Mr. Leather, and then we had plastic chain that kind of was our decor, and that was the first one. But we were
No,
lucky enough that we had good judges. Uh, we had a good winner and who went
yeah,
on to kind of travel and become a celebrity.
yeah, David Kloss was the first winner, and uh, he, of course, had iconic status as well because of the nature of the business. But um, how well did you know him? What did you think of him as first?
I respected him a lot. I wasn't really, he was from out of town, so he wasn't one of the people you'd see all the time.
Okay,
And, but he, in hindsight, he really did what he was molding what Mr. Leather was going to be all about.
wow,
Eventually,
wow,
Drummer Magazine referred to it as the Academy Awards of Leatherdom.
yeah.
And that Chuck loved because that was a kind of conflicting, because they went and did their drummer contest and everything else. But
Hmm.
eventually, Pat, if I remember correctly, moved to San Francisco, and then that opened up the show to other people to produce it. So
Okay, yeah. No, David died maybe a year ago or so, maybe a little
maybe
longer.
a year and a half or
Okay,
so.
yeah, which was a tremendous loss for everyone, including his husband. How did you feel about that, of his loss?
It was like any other icon. You're sad, but
Hmm.
that's life.
Yeah.
But there were enough other people that respected him and kind of carried on, carried the torch, I guess you could say.
Wild. No, I
We've
hate
had
to bring.
some really great, winners over the years.
Who stands out for you?
Henry Tanhavi,
Okay.
and because he was from the Netherlands,
Yeah.
we actually did have a good international flavor. And but I've always been into since my hippie days. I've always been into long hair folks.
Oh, got it.
He'll never win, but he's my favorite. And I was so happy when, you know, he was a nice guy. He was, tremendous. He was good looking. He had this beautiful hair. And I thought, wow, I picked a winner.
Well,
Very nice. So you get, you kind of think over the time. I'm not usually right when it came, but eventually became, we'd always sit around the 50 to 55 numbers
Hmm.
when it came to how many contestants would be, you know, in the competition that year.
You actually brought IML from like a one night event to at least a three night, and then it even went more than that.
Well, it was good history because we changed venues. Uh, there was no like official hotel,
Yeah.
because everyone just kind of came in and stayed with friends. And it
Oh,
was
okay.
originally
Yeah.
done on Mother's Day weekend,
Yeah. I did know that. Yeah.
on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
And eventually we ended up at what's now Park West.
Hmm.
And, you could hold 100, actually 750 people, I think was their maximum, size. And then when
Okay.
you bring in 40, 50 people for contestants and there's no dressing room space. If you've ever been into Park West, the back wall of the stage, it's the back wall of the building.
Uh, uh,
So they had one little dressing room upstairs. We had to have a changing room in the kitchen off to the side.
hmm.
There was in 19, what was it, 82, we had a group of cloggers come in. There had to be about 30 of those. We had a musician that had animals, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my!
Wow.
And it
Okay.
was staging that show with no room, and all these contestants
Hmm. Hmm.
was, it was like, it's like playing policeman in Times Square. Okay, you all move in, you guys move out.
Wow. What a
But it was,
mess.
you did, different theaters and
Hmm.
and then you also in, I don't even remember the year, but there used to be at the base of Navy Pier, there was like a motel. It was called the Lakeshore Motel. And we ended up going into contract because we wanted to have some kind of a home base.
Oh, okay.
Theater wasn't there, but as it turned out, excuse me,
Oh,
I'm on a call at time. So it was this smallish hotel, and it turned out we moved in there, and it turned out that half of the hotel was filled with a straight swingers group. Like so you'd have the leather folks and the toga folks,
oh
in
my,
this.
that
It's
had to be
quite the
something.
adventure. And then eventually we moved to the Hyatt Hotel where we could do everything in one building.
Mm, mm,
Shows, went down to Hyatt Regency,
mm, mm, mm.
and we would have we did this one show that we combined since the hotel was so big. They liked it if we sold out everything, so we didn't have to, embarrass their other guests.
Okay,
So we had at this time, I had a business partner named R.J. Chafin, and we were
okay,
in
okay,
promotional business in the community. So we got the contract for the International Gay Rodeo, not Gay Rodeo, Square Dance
oh,
Association.
okay.
So we brought the cowboys in and the leather folks into the Hyatt. And it was really a good combination.
I should think.
I know we were at they call the big bar there, which is on the second level overlooking the lobby. And there was this bride and groom coming down the escalator, and all of a sudden you hear all these people uproar, where's your
Mm.
husband? And she loved
She could
it,
have at least thrown the bouquet or
Oh
something.
yeah, yeah. That was a big thing. We had, all these different people there. They've been at the Congress Hotel now for quite a while.
Several years, yeah, yeah. Wild. Yeah, when I first began at IML, it was at the Hyatt, with the double towers.
Hmm.
That was the pinnacle, I gotta tell you. That was amazing.
Well, the ballrooms were great because they were large and we could do
Hmm.
staging
Hmm.
there. We didn't have to worry about dressing room
Yeah,
space.
yeah.
The other theater I really like is the Harris Theater, Theater and Dance,
Mm.
because they had huge dressing
Yeah,
rooms,
yeah,
and the size of it was perfect.
yeah.
It was a good, show. But then
Wild.
we're close, just all the different choice hotels over the years.
But as things happen, Chuck Renslow even passed away, what, maybe a year or two ago, 2 years ago, something.
Oh, it's probably closer to 3 or 4.
Okay, well, what would you say to him today if you could?
Thank you. He was really a big influence on my life. And, yeah, he was, Chuck. He had his personality quirks, and I've always been, people with quirks, who are quirky, were always favorite people of mine. Don't give me a
Hmm.
boring person. Give me somebody of excitement. You know, Not only did I think of him as a father figure, but everybody thought of him as Daddy Chuck. He was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
daddy of all time.
Wild. And he was my second interview, fireside chat interview. And um, I prepared everything like I normally do, but I did not yet learn the concept of doing a pre-interview. That happened as a result of doing his interview,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up straying into territory he didn't want to discuss. So that I learned a valuable lesson from that interview. I'll tell you
Well,
that.
he had a pornography bust that he did take to the Supreme Court.
I know.
The original name of Gold Coast was Aggie's Gold Coast Lounge.
Mm, mhm,
So he could not, having this charge against him, he couldn't get a
mhm,
liquor
mhm,
license.
mhm. Yeah.
So he had a woman, a lesbian woman, that he was friends with,
Mm,
named Agnes Hassett, who was the official owner of the bar, and
yeah.
hence Aggie's Gold Coast Lounge. But
Yeah.
then he finally fought that and won. So he took it to the Supreme Court and
Yeah.
won a pornography case. And then he was able to hold the licenses under his own
I'm
name.
sorry, what? Sorry.
Hold the licenses
Oh,
under their own name.
oh,
His own.
okay. But yeah, so I learned a valuable lesson how to do a better interview because of that, and that's fine. So
Mhm.
I think I knew his surviving partner, Ron. I think I knew Ron a bit better, but
Yeah, well, Ron passed away as
yes,
well
I know he
last
did.
year.
Yeah, I know. That's that's another story. If you want to talk about that, we can talk about it. Um, but coming back, you at the okay, you were at the focal point in Chicago at the time of the AIDS epidemic when that hit. Um, Chicago Gay Men's Health Project, the nurse Lunt, I Want You know, with her
Lust, lust.
Lust. Oh, I'm sorry, Lust, and the medical truck. Um, Take me
Well,
there. Tell me
it
about
goes
it.
back when I went from the Gold Coast to Man's Country.
Mhm.
There was, you had STD testing going on in the city.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they still do it or not because I haven't been turned in yet to the Board of Health, in a long time. But they'd have epidemiologists that were trying to stem, the spread of venereal disease in the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
So I was at Man's Country, and everyone thought, well, Man's Country, that's a breeding ground of, syphilis and gonorrhea. So I had this person come up to the door in the window looking for me because he was an epidemiologist for the Chicago Board of Health.
Okay.
And okay, I'll see him. And he said, said that my name was turned in, and I had to, I brought him back to the office, and he was going to take my blood. And then we got into conversations over, how things were done. And I was always leery if my name, if I ever wanted treatment, for any kind of venereal disease,
Hmm.
if you went to a public health facility, you normally had to tell the doctors that treated you where to look and to, point, like do my throat, do my ass, do that, because they had no clue as to what, a gay person sexual,
Okay. Got it. Okay.
feelings are.
Uh,
And so I didn't particularly care for this guy. At one point, he said, "Well, if you don't do this now, I'm going to close this down." And all I could think of was, try it. Go ahead and try it. Now get the hell out of here. And so he did. But then somebody downtown at the Board of Health must have been smart because about 2 weeks later, these two guys show up. Same story. Your name's been turned in,
hmm.
but they were of a different generation. They were younger students, younger
Okay.
epidemiologists, and they were also easy on the eye. So, oh yeah, bring them in. So they turned out to be really nice guys, and we had excellent communication skills.
Hmm.
They were cared about the community, and from there we started doing a weekly testing program at Man's Country Baths, so people can come in and just another service that we could provide.
Yeah.
We had to get these analyzed, these blood samples and smear samples. So we started a group called Chicago Gay Health Project.
Okay.
And we were able to gather help from the Chicago Board of Health, which would actually do the testing of the things that we were, the samples that we were getting done. And from there, there was a drag queen named Wanda Lust at
Yep.
Man's Country, and she was sort of our resident queen because we had entertainment at the baths, and you could go to any bar, basically see a drag show. But Wanda Luss, a celebrity, and she
Yeah.
was our technician. She knew her music. She operated. We had the Men's Country Music Hall, which she was her area, and she took care of the lighting, this and that, and she was magical. I said, Wanda, you want to go out if we do like a RV and go to the bars, take this clinic out to the bars.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we did the VD van, rented a couple times we did it. We rented an RV, and literally it was paid for by, we were very popular amongst the bars because we'd always get bar people coming to the baths after the bars closed.
Sure.
So everybody loved us. And we're going to bring a testing, get VD testing. We'll pull up right in front of your bar. All we need from you is $50 to help pay for the rent and a parking space, in front of the bar.
Sure.
Oh, they loved it. So Wanda would dress up as Nurse Lust, and if you came
Yes.
in and got tested, she'd go into the bar and pull people out and offer them cookies if they came in and got tested.
Oh,
She's a
okay.
very good, but she was like 7 feet tall in this white outfit with her red hair. She was quite something.
And
She
you said
was,
she duplicated that poster. I want you to
yeah.
come and
Well,
get tested
we
or
had a
something.
designer who did our posters for Man's Country. His name was Montel Cade, and his business name was Mona Lisa Artworks, and he'd do the graphics for everything we did at Man's Country. We had Sally Rand there, he did that. We had Gotham there, he did those graphics. So he was our official
Wow.
graphic person,
Wow.
and so he did the "I Want You," and it's like it was a perfect media thing. We back in the day we were doing pretty good as far as PR with a bathhouse because we'd make it a variety. We'd
Mhm.
make it in After Dark, which was another magazine that was popular nationwide. And we were on the, literally Chicago's entree into the KY circuit of entertainment. Waylon Flowers and Madam was another one,
Yeah. Yeah.
incredibly, unbelievable. And good time. He was always funny because the story I have on him is when he'd arrive in town, he'd always stay at the baths because that was kind of his thing.
Hmm.
And so whenever he did sound check, he got in, he wanted to set up a microphone and just a little light, and then all of a sudden Waylon would pull out Madam, and then Madam would take charge
Of
and do the
course.
entire
Yeah.
show with Madam. It was funny. And then there was time we'd be staying at the baths. You go down to the television lounge after the shows were over with, and you look over, and there'd be Madam sitting in her chenille robe and rose. So it was like, okay,
Should have seen that coming.
he was always on. It was pretty funny. What a loss. He died of AIDS
Yeah. Yeah.
at a very young age.
Now,
Went on to do TV and everything.
I,
Sally
well,
Rand was there,
I
incredible.
even remember Madam was a guest on various what do you call them, like game shows and that.
Oh yeah, she was
She had her own
Waylon
personality.
Adam. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
On Hollywood Squares.
There,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, you mentioned to me that leather people, leather folk, are a more educated group, and they took all this information regarding AIDS and HIV, everything, and they made it a part of the regular world. So that's really quite amazing.
Well, I think leather folks turned out to be an older group of folks
Mm,
who were probably very well educated, a lot of doctorates and
mm, mm.
different things. And it wasn't just sex, but even the sex that leather folks do is a controlled thing that they really think it out first because you're kind of expanding,
Yeah,
the idea.
yeah.
Whereas you go to, just a regular bar where everyone's out there to drink and, go and take somebody home and, they didn't really think about it.
Hmm.
They just went out and did it and probably not the best sex in the world that they had. Whereas the leather sex, maybe I'm a fan of leather sex, but I, think that it's a more interesting brain thing. Sex with that's another sexual organ that a lot of people don't understand exists.
I agree. Yeah. But delicate question on all of this, though, is over the years, I've spoken to a lot of people who were in the response to HIV/AIDS in Chicago predominantly. And an interesting line kept coming up, and I found it to be really fascinating. Many people have said that they suffered PTSD from taking care of people and surviving this, basically. Let's just say that they were survivors. Were you affected like that?
Not really, but I always thought that there was something that protected me uh, that wasn't well known. That well, when AIDS came out, I was fairly active, and being in the bathhouse business and the bar business, I'm
Sure.
surprised I'm sitting here talking to you now. It's just what saved me versus the people that die. I knew a lot of couples where one of the couple would be HIV positive and later die. The other one continues living without a sign of AIDS.
Hmm.
So I don't know if there is something in the your blood. You build up an immunity to the HIV infection, but
I don't know.
I don't know why they haven't gone farther with it, but getting any kind of research done with AIDS was difficult because even during the Reagan administration and George, Bush, old George Bush,
Yeah.
they didn't mention AIDS. It
Yeah.
wasn't on the radar.
Yeah.
I got involved with AIDS because it was a natural from the STD testing at Man's Country.
Hmm.
Um, the executive director of uh, the Howard Brown Clinic at the time invited us down, some people, and said, we were, kind of known for doing shows and events and everything. He said, there's a new disease and nothing is known about it. How would you like to do a fundraiser? We started,
Mhm.
a new group there with Howard Brown Clinic, and we started a fundraiser where we did what's called Cornucopia, which
Mhm.
was a review show at Park West,
Okay.
and it was the first AIDS fundraiser that happened in Chicago. And then from there, my business partner RJ, uh, he was kind of a big guy, and uh, Illinois Masonic Hospital had a ward that basically was all about AIDS people bringing
Yeah.
them in.
Yeah.
And so there was, I'm not good with that kind of surrounding, but because of the cause, I got better. So I have another personality called Buttons T Clown. So RJ would dress as Santa Claus. I would dress as the Christmas version of Buttons the Clown. We'd call our friends in the bar business for donations, and we go in. We get Christmas stockings
Uh,
filled with, from shaving cream
mm.
to candy to anything that we thought somebody in the hospital would need,
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
And it's an easier way for me to deal with it personally because
Hmm.
we're doing some good. So, and you bring a laugh to somebody. I think
Yeah.
laughter is one of the best cures, not cures, but medications to
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
feel better. And you see Santa Claus come in and the clown, and we did another fundraiser with Circus Vargas, which at the time was the world's largest big top circus show, uh, because Ringling Brothers was the largest circus, but they always, did their shows in auditorium, arenas. So Cliff Vargas ended up from Chicago. As a matter of fact, he was manager of Louis Gage's, who was the bar that was raided years earlier,
Hmm.
where they published all the names and
Ah,
jobs and everything.
ah.
So, and the manager and the ringmaster were partners, and they'd always come to the Gold Coast, and
Hmm.
they loved the Gold Coast, and I kind of liked the circus because it was
Hmm.
the oldest form of show business. I'm a show business, and so they ended up giving us. Cliff Vargas died of AIDS, and it was seeing how the circus family did a memorial service under the big top
Hmm.
for Cliff
Hmm. Hmm. Uh,
moving. and they ended up giving us an evening of performance that we could do whatever we wanted with the tickets. We could hold like 3,000, tickets, and we could distribute those amongst the, brought the community-based funding for AIDS and HIV, awareness. They could either give the tickets to their clients, sell them for resale, or whatever they wanted to do. And then we'd do it at the Big Top. Well, the one year, Jeff McCourt, who was one of the publishers of Windy City Times, came up to RJ and I after one of the Big Top benefits and said, if you perform on the trapeze, I'll write a check to you for $5,000. Oh, really?
Okay.
So I checked and, with my friends, the ringmaster and the manager, I said, is that a possibility? And they said, oh, yeah, next year we'll do it. And you can come in and, So RJ and I went down and got outfitted in our Tada outfits, sequin capes and bloomers and tights, and we had the Chicago She Devils as our Tada girls. Larry McKeon, our state rep, was our ambulance driver. Clowns do routines.
Yeah.
Actually performed on the high trapeze and got the check for $5,000.
You're the only person I know that's ever been on a trapeze. That's wild.
Yeah. Well, it was raining like crazy outside. Of course, there was one drip coming through the Big Top that was landing. Here I am in these little shoes. I'm going to kill myself, because you look down and see these spikes holding up a net with these spikes at the end of it. I thought, okay, one slip and I'm impaled. But I was so happy to have that done and over with. But I did it. Yeah.
So do you think it was something physical for you that prevented you from catching AIDS, or?
I don't know if it's something in my immune system
Uh-huh.
that but I must have been exposed to it, just like other people I know have survived, and they shouldn't,
Because to hear some of the other people tell the PTSD stories, it's absolutely heartbreaking.
Oh yeah,
Oh
But
gosh.
that's what saves me,
Yeah.
if somebody's killed in an automobile accident,
Yeah.
why didn't I survive that?
Yeah.
And I always felt that,
Yeah.
there had to be something someone looking down on me or whatever.
Because I figured if anybody in the Chicago community would know anything, it would be you, you know?
Oh, it was nobody knew anything at first. So it was a big education thing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
use of condoms.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't particularly care for condom use because it just doesn't flow right.
Excuse me.
And but you have to get used to certain things in order to stay alive.
Yeah. But now, the Chicago History Museum. I saved this for a little bit later in the chat because it was so fascinating to watch happen. I was there that night, and I walked with the docent, around, and she was pointing out things, talking about things. They were talking about you, and I don't know where we came to a certain point. I think toward the end of the tourish, maybe somewhere around there, and she was talking about whatever it was, and then you walk up, and I remember the docent looked at you like that you were intruding maybe on the tour. And I thought, I turned to other people and I said, no, wait, that's Gary Chichester. That's the man right here. And the whole crowd was like, whoa, because you literally, it was like a big stage entrance.
I am so proud that I was asked to be part of that demonstration, because seeing the show, you realize I grew up kind of during that graphic,
Sorry.
I grew up during that graphic period. There used to be an underground newspaper called Seed. They put it into the display. We worked together with Gay Liberation, and you had, people that I wasn't, women. I didn't really know a lot of lesbians. I didn't know just women in general. because once you're labeled, it seems like I stuck to my label. And but the early days, we none of us knew anything. Everything we were doing was brand new to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And it was amazing how if we wanted something gay to be published, we had to go to the state because they would have the
Yeah.
balls to publish anything queer, in the newspaper. You had the civil rights movement. You had the anti-war movement.
Hmm.
You have
Yeah.
the just the women's movement.
Yeah.
All these different movements that they pulled together
Yeah.
and kind of made the woman who did the curating for that exhibit was absolutely the nicest person you'd want to, we worked together for a long time. When I told her they're going to work, with the anti-war movement, and when I told her I had a pair of boots that I had on when I
Yeah.
got hit by a tear gas canister
Yeah.
at the, march for the
I
convention,
think I
68.
think that's what you pointed out. I think that's what I saw you pointing out at the time. I think that boots were the topic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they had me doing the recording and everything else. So,
But I mean, to see you walk up was astounding, truly.
yeah, it's my little bit of celebrity. We all have 15 minutes.
Yeah. But honestly, the look on the docent's face, I wish you could have seen it because she literally looked like
They did a really nice job. The History Museum as a
they sure
Chicago
did.
gem, and they did a good job. In fact, we hold our annual. I'm involved with the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Do at the History Museum every year.
Sorry.
We do at the museum every year,
Oh,
and they're so easy to work with. It's just a pleasure to go down there, and
and what an honor.
they just extended it to 2027 now.
How
So
wonderful.
they're getting a lot of high school kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Education is so important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one reason like I do the Hall of Fame is because if we lose our identity,
Hmm.
we lose our history,
Yeah. True.
and then we lose our rights.
Yep.
And the Hall of Fame brings in people. We had an excellent, diverse crowd of inductees, class of
Mm-hmm.
2025 this year,
Wow. Wow.
and absolutely amazing time, a lot of energy,
Yeah.
and I'm really proud of being one of the founders of
Mm.
that organization.
Yeah. That the wow, that's all I can say, really. But you're a Disney freak.
No, what makes you think of that?
Well, a little birdie told me, so I made sure to ask you about wearing your ears. So,
Car.
oh, and look at those. They're pride ears. I love it.
Yeah.
Tell me, what about Disney is so fascinating for you?
Well, it's the happiest place on earth.
Hmm.
It's amazing how they make money and make you, bro. If you've ever been to a Disney park at the end of the night and people are leaving the park and they have to get that last souvenir,
Mm.
and you see them throwing money at the park,
Wow.
here, take this. I gotta have this and everything.
Mm.
I think it's great merchandising. They've been going through their what should I say, their problems with different things and decisions.
Hmm.
They change boards
Uh, uh,
but it's like if you go see the Wizard of Oz, there's something of that, about the Wizard of Oz that queers really respect it. Wicked is another one. If you're queer, you really kind of get it. And Disney, when they started doing Pride events at Disney Park,
hmm.
and make it still the family thing, it's pretty amazing. And it's just the way that they interact. So somebody, I love the operation. I'm a stockholder. They've done very well for me. Um, But people don't realize that, you have to be, it's a good place to go and make you feel like there's nothing, you're a kid again.
Uh, uh,
And, it's no matter how old you are, you'll always, at least I'll always have that, you know.
I'm glad you brought your ears. We couldn't have done it without
I
those.
don't leave home without them.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been disappointed if you hadn't. So, but somewhere out in internet land, somewhere, there are going to be people, maybe kids, I don't know, but someone is going to see this interview. What advice can you offer people coming into the, I'm going to just say leather, gay, whatever scene? Words of wisdom.
It's hard because the when you're trying to find yourself, it's difficult just being a teen. And
Yeah.
then when they start throwing, the bodily changes, when you start getting hair in places you didn't know you could get hair, and things, and you're growing up, you feel things that you don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
back when I was growing up, I'm going to take this off because headbands don't,
Oh no. Okay.
but it's always there for me. So
Good.
uh, it's such a change thing. You have to kind of learn to be yourself. Uh, and that's why the Hall of Fame is a thing I'm proud of. It
Hmm.
helps people realize that you have to be proud of who you are.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about the changing of the word march to pride parade, because you go and you see the crowds that people are having a joyous time. They
Yeah.
may be gay, they may not be gay, but there's something about the rainbow colors that,
Yeah.
make you smile. It's like bubbles, it makes you smile. And you have to feel good about yourself, because with all the hatred, I remember when
Mhm.
the churches,
Yep.
would put you down.
Mm.
Your jobs, would, any kind of employment could
Yeah.
be an issue.
Yeah.
School could be an issue.
Yep.
And I just won't let that happen to me. And I just encourage anybody who is having issues is to try to find their inner self and be true to that inner self. And there's right now, we didn't have a lot of support back in the early, 60s and 70s.
Mm. Mm.
Now there is, if you go get help to get through, and accept yourself
Yeah.
very easily, and you should do it, you know, and learn about your background, learn about the great people that
Yeah.
I owe so much to my homosexuality. I feel
Yep.
like such a fuller person because I was queer.
Yep.
That if I think back, if I wasn't queer, I'd probably be an old fuddy-duddy grandpa right now, which is, for those people that like to be a grandpa, is fine. But I really think I lived my life because of my homosexuality.
I agree. I'm right there with you. What's the biggest misconception about you?
I'm a nice guy.
You're not?
I don't know. I never think about misconceptions because I am what you see is what you get, and people can think of different things. I'm sure they do of me, but again, once you get to know me, I think I can be a pretty good guy, for pretty, good friend.
Well, you've been lovely uh, to Chicago and so many people, and very kind to me about this interview and everything else. It's absolutely been wonderful.
Well, that's part of my IML upbringing too,
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
being a Chicago native.
Yeah.
When we announced that we were having International Mr. Leather in Chicago, people from the coast would go, "Why is it going to be in, Chicago?
Yeah. Yeah.
It should be in New York. It should be in
Hmm.
San Francisco." And it brings me back to, I think it was '82 again, for IML. And
Hmm.
Chuck Renslow, the owner of Touche's,
Hmm.
was one of the speakers at the opening.
Ah,
And he related about how leather was everywhere in whatever your concept was. You could be a leather man and wear, sweatpants. It's the mind thing.
yes, agreed.
It's you could,
Yeah,
and so we proved that, yeah, Chicago, you went, well, there's leather in Peoria, there's leather in Kansas City, there's leather
yeah,
in,
all over.
wherever,
Yeah,
all over. It's a mindset and it's in your brain.
I
And,
agree.
yeah.
It's been amazing for me because I came into the leather community at -0, and now I feel really earned something. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I made a lot of friends up in the leather community and uh, the non-leather community.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I cherish them all because every person that touches you is part of you. It makes it,
Yes,
they leave their mark.
yes, yes.
And I figure
Good,
everyone
bad, or indifferent,
good, bad, or indifferent. Right.
But Gary Chichester, I have to thank you so very, very, very much for this wonderful interview for Inside Leather History, a fireside chat. And I hope I will see you again very soon.
I hope so too. Maybe I'll come out there. This weather is
Please, please. I mean, I wish you could see outside. I closed the drapes, but I wish you could see outside. There's this great big beautiful sun just looking at me going, "Hey, how the heck are you?" You know?
yeah, no, I know, I know. We've been
Mm.
kind of lucky this year though. We did started, but then just 2 days ago, it fell on us. We had like in some areas of the city, we had 6 inches, 8 inches of snow.
No thanks. Way too early in the year for that. I mean, today is, I don't think I said this, did I? It's November 11th. And, I'm in Palm Springs with sun and warmth and everything else. And there you are freezing your kazoo off.
Yeah, yeah, you got a point there.
So,
But thank
but,
God I could play a cold kazoo,
but
my warm lips that do it.
thank you very much. I
Thank you,
appreciate it,
Doug. It was a
Gary.
pleasure. It was a
And
pleasure.
I will let you know when it's ready.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. Now stay on with me. I'm going to stop the recording, okay?
Okay.
Okay, let's just stop that. Hold on. Where are we? Okay, we're going to do.